most welcome to historiespanen on History Reconnaissance and the ALCAN Military Highway 1942, bridging the wilderness. So, stay with us for the story of 1,700 miles of road built to connect Alaska across western Canada with the lower 48, and Alaska that in 1942 was under attack by Japan. The ALCAN or Alaskan Highway was built mainly by the US Army Corps of Engineers. More than 10,000 men were assigned, about a third of them from the 3 newly formed African American regiments. And before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and get notified of upcoming videos. We would really appreciate having you on board on our historical journey. In 1940, only 75,000 people lived in the territory of Alaska. The military had set up few defenses. The military base in the territory's most vulnerable spot, the Aleutian Islands, only had 6 operational airplanes and a small radio station run by the United States Army Signal Corps. The coastline of Alaska was long and weakly defended, US bases few and far between. The only means of supplying them was by sea and air. No overland connection through western Canada existed. This made Alaska very vulnerable and called for immediate action. Now, the decision was made to build a military highway from Rails End at Dawson Creek, British Columbia to Fairbanks, Alaska.
Off the coast of Alaska, jutting sharply into the Pacific and the slate-gray Bering Sea, lie the bleak Aleutian Islands. Here, Jap airmen bomb American soil and ships. Here, our defenders seek the enemy, determined to drive him from American shores. Destroyers guard transports and cargo ships to land troops and supplies on a fog-swept island near the enemy-held Kiska. Men, stores, and ammunition pour in for the Battle of the Aleutians, a battle that Americans must win.
If the supply by sea was interrupted, Alaska could fall. Something had to be done. A land route had to be created that could provide a safe inland highway that also linked up and supplied the emergency airfields in western Canada. In March 1942, first US engineer troops arrived at Dawson Creek in British Columbia and set up camp. Training tractor handling and maintenance in sub-zero conditions, they soon became skilled catch skinners. First engineer troops used a trail broken by the Canadian Department of Transport and set up a base camp at Fort Nelson. Other regiments entered the Yukon through Skagway, or west from Valdez, then continuing north and south. In all, it was 10,000 men in 7 regiments, with the immediate task of breaking through a pioneer road. This road could be used to supply the airfields and to construct a permanent road later. All through the spring and summer of 1942, they continued to hack and cut their way through the wilderness. The troops of the African American Engineer Regiments, the 93rd, 95th and the 97th, lived separated from the white troops. They stayed in the Yukon through the winter of 42-43, living in tents at temperatures of 40 to 60 below zero, working with hand tools, picks, shovels, axes, handsaws, operated bulldozers and drove trucks. they fought the mud and thawing ground frost, building corduroy roads, that is, timber trackways. They built culverts over small streams and timber bridges over rivers. Finally, on the 27th of November 1942, 8 months after the first troops plunged into the wilderness, the Pioneer Road from Dawson Creek to Fairbanks was officially opened. The truck drivers found the road better than expected, and it was truly an amazing achievement considering the terrain, climate and the short time of construction. However, the highway was still largely a winter road, usable only when the ground was frozen. The bridges were temporary and would probably be washed away by the ice and flood in the spring. From Skagway, supplies moved across the mountains to Whitehorse on the narrow gauge White Pass and Yukon Railway, built in 1898 during the Klondike Gold Rush. To secure operations, it was leased by the US Army during World War II and was then run by a railroad battalion. Tow cars worked around the clock patrolling the highway, dragging trucks out of trouble wherever they found them. Then came the civilian contractors, tasked with turning the Pioneer Road into a permanent all-weather road. New bridges were built, replacing the temporary ones built by the engineers. In 1943, 5 permanent bridges were constructed over the major water crossings on the Alaska Territory portion of the highway. The Tanana River Bridge, the Took River Bridge, the Robertson River Bridge, the Johnson River Bridge and the Big Gerstle River Bridge, later renamed the Black Veterans Memorial Bridge. Of these bridges, 4 are still in place in their original location, even as the path of the road has been modified throughout the past 80 years. What is often overlooked is that the Alaska Highway also was used as a corridor for 2 other wartime construction projects, the Canal, Canadian Oil Pipeline, and the Alaskan Military Highway telephone and telegraph line, AMHTTL. In all, 86 major bridges were constructed on the highway. The largest of these was the Peace River Bridge, 2,275 feet long, with two 200 feet high suspension towers. It was officially opened in August 1943. Soldiers and construction workers, officials from the United States and Canada. Speeches held and a ribbon to be cut. By October 1943, there was only one gap in the highway, just east of the Alaska-Yukon border. October 13th, the remaining gap was only a few hundred feet. Two crews working towards each other. The blades touched. The Alaska Highway was finished. A handshake in the autumn darkness marked the end. It has been 80 years since the Alaska Highway, one of the most expensive World War II projects taken on by the United States government in cooperation with the Canadian government, was completed. In an instant, this territorial outpost of the US was recognized as an important strategic defense position against a potential Japanese invasion of the North American mainland. The result was a monumental effort that combined military and civilian workers in the United States and Canada.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.